you really can't gain weight if you're not producing too much insulin. And so, which it makes it quite obvious now, if you want to lose weight, what's the best thing you can do? Cut your insulin down, because then your body will burn fat for energy.
Welcome to Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast, where we create real space and conversations around caregiving, healing, and how to care for yourself while caring for others. Today's episode is titled The 5 Pillars of Health Every Caregiver Needs to Know. If you're a caregiver feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or running on empty, this conversation is for you, because the truth is, caregiver burnout is real and your health matters too. Today, we're joined by Graham Hawley, a certified health and wellness coach, speaker, and founder of Simply Health Conscious. Graham helps busy professionals and caregivers improve their metabolic health through simple, sustainable habits without crash diets or extreme routines. His approach is built around the 5 pillars of health: nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and mindful alcohol use, the foundation for long-term energy, resilience, and overall well-being. With a practical, science-backed method, Graham empowers caregivers to move from just surviving to truly thriving because, as he says, self-care is healthcare. Let's get into it. Welcome, Graham Hawley. How are you today?
I am great, thank you. Teresa, how are you doing? I appreciate the invite.
Yes, very welcome. And I am doing well on today, and I sincerely appreciate you agreeing to come on to be a guest onto Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast. Podcast family, we have our guest here, Graham Hawley, on, who is a published author as well as a coach. And we're going to have a dynamic conversation about the pillars of health every caregiver needs to know. That is the title. So with that said, let's get right on into it. Graham, please tell me about yourself.
Yeah, okay, let me really tell you how I got into this health and wellness field by default, one could say. After observing both my brother and my father become debilitated through other conditions, lifestyle conditions were causing them, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. I wondered if I was setting myself up for these type of lifestyle conditions. So as I delved into the research and studies, I quickly found out that, wow, I was a little blown away that really all what's going on in a lot of the world, certainly in the US and where I'm from in the UK, this epidemic of lifestyle disease, which is affecting children and teenagers now, and it really shouldn't be happening in the 21st century. And as I delved into the research, I got my health back on track. And then it took me down this rabbit hole, what I was finding about the 5 pillars of health and big food and big pharma, big insurance, and where we are at the GP level, that, I don't know, it just took me down this rabbit hole. And now I've developed a passion. And over the years now, I am helping individuals, busy professionals, and I've now also gone into families because of children. Parents are not aware of why the children are dealing with all these conditions. And it's quite simple if you break it down to what's known as the 5 pillars of health, which is nutrition, exercise and movement, sleep quality, stress management, and just being mindful of your alcohol consumption. It's amazing how you can turn your health around. So this is where I am. And then January, I got this book published, Small Steps, Big Results, because what I have learned is, look, here's the thing, when people are making lifestyle changes, it can be very overwhelming, especially if you get brought to the attention of the 5 pillars of health. You might have all 5 pillars to work on. You might even have 3, and it's people. I think this is why people fail. They don't know where to start, and they don't know what step to do next. So that's why I call my book Small Steps, big results. Because when you start to identify your unhealthy habits in and around the 5 pillars of health, I say start with nutrition, and then just week by week, swap one of them out. It's it's a lot simpler than people make it. So you get 2 months down the road. There's no rush for this. Remember, you get 2 months down the road. You've made at least 8 substantial changes from unhealthy habit to a healthy habit. And what I find with my clients is once they get maybe 3 or 4 weeks into it, then they can handle 2 a week. So by the end of 3 months and 4 months, weight has fallen off of them. They've got more energy, more clarity, skin conditions have cleared up, and they're heading back to the doctor who's, in most cases, have reduced and eliminated the lifestyle medication. They're not type 2 diabetic anymore. They don't have high blood pressure. They're alive and thriving. Alive and thriving.
That's great to hear. As I think about the caregiving family and podcast family, this is a very important topic. You all are aware that I'm constantly talking about self care and the importance of that. The 5 pillars of health is very important because if you are able to concentrate on that during your journey as a caregiver, you'll be better able to show up for the loved one who you are taking care of. So, this conversation is really geared towards you because I understand as being a caregiver, with my experience that I had, you can get so caught up and so wrapped up in everything that's happening around you, including making sure that your loved one is well taken care of. So much so that you're not doing the best things for you and for your health. So, with that said, let's start off with the first step of the 5 pillars. What does that include?
Okay, so the 5 pillars are nutrition, exercise and movement, sleep quality, stress management, and being mindful of alcohol. Now, here's something you really need to understand, that these 5 pillars of health do not operate independently. When one of them weakens or is ignored, the others will eventually pay the price. And one could say, if one of these pillars is done consistently, it beats all 5 attempted inconsistently. And you've got to remember, it can take years, even decades, before symptoms ever show of these lifestyle disease. So it's not where you are now. The question we should all be asking ourselves is, where are we heading? Where are we heading? So what I find is to ideally get yourself look, I think we've got to a point now in today's world where it's all about self-care is the new healthcare. You have to make a commitment to yourself that you want to be healthy. Now, I understand we're talking to a community who are caregivers, and I can only applaud you guys because you're going out there and you're helping people, but it's equally, if not more important, that you help yourself. Because when you show up with energy and clarity and you've had a good night's sleep and you're not stressed out, and you've minimized your alcohol and you're moving your body and you're exercising regularly enough, and you're also eating healthy enough. Because certainly when people are quick on the go, that's when they turn to fast foods and processed foods. And they just don't know what slow damage they're doing. So I think it's a matter of being honest with yourself with these 5 pillars, getting a journal, write them down. Okay, nutrition. How much fast food, processed food are you eating on a daily basis? How much real food do you eat on a daily basis? And then figure how, if you're eating a lot of the fast food and processed food and snacking all the time, you've got to come up with a way, and there's ways to come up with that, is to slowly swap those habits out. So every time you eat, you're eating real food, even if you have to take food with you. And you can easily do that. Boiled egg, avocados, mixed nuts, some fruit. There's loads of healthy foods you can take with you where if it is time, but I always say this, don't blame I don't have time, because it's a very common thing. And I say make time before you're forced to make time for your own illness. And remembering again, take years, even decades, for symptoms to show up. And you might have done decades of slow damage over the years. What I find unfortunate is there is really no education out there how to take care of yourself, how to be healthy. And one could even say, because of the misinformation, the disinformation, and deceptive packaging by food companies, this is what's setting everybody up for failure.
That's very true. What I've come to learn is when you don't make time for yourself, including for your nutrition, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're out there, whether you're like, let's say you work in the field or you go to the office and it's time for lunch, the majority of options that exist around us are fast food places that have heavily processed
Yep.
foods, and it doesn't provide your body with the fuel that you need
Mm-hmm.
for your health,
Yeah.
and which ultimately will show up in other
You're
ways.
absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That it's lack. Look, again, I hate knocking the food industry, but fast food and processed food, there's so many unhealthy ingredients used in it. One, for it to be made addictive. Two, for it to look good, taste good, and smell good. But the human body, the overconsumption of those foods, the human body doesn't agree with it. It's that simple. You got to nourish. The idea of eating food is to nourish your body. And if you go back from beginning of mankind up to maybe 35 years ago, human beings thrived on real food. You can go back 30, 40 years, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, weight gain, distended belly, autism, ADHD. They were rare. They were rare. So what's changed? The food industry. Just all of a sudden flooded in, supermarkets got bigger. Now every corner shop, every advertisement. Look, it's a clever plan they've done, because they truly do make these foods addictive. That's why copious amounts of sugar are used. Ask me, can you answer me these questions? Why do they use sugar in bread? There's sugar in bread now. Sugar used to be a condiment, and now it's a main ingredient. And it's toxic to the liver. The liver just can't handle the overconsumption of simple carbohydrates, one could say. And that's what these fast foods and processed foods are, simple carbohydrates, majority of it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go find, maybe if you go to a fast food restaurant and you have a salad and some grilled chicken, there you go, fantastic. But most people are not going for that. They're going for the fried food, which is all these fried in all these. I personally would keep away from fried food. They say these inflammatory seed oils used in fast food, processed food, pretty much at every restaurant out there, and what people frying at home, is inflammatory to the human body. I've actually heard by all the doctors that I follow, it's actually worse than sugar. It can cause so many problems: cardiovascular, heart disease, liver, clog your liver up, inflammation. And people are just piling it down. And that's another thing. In people's defense, yeah, because there's no information out there how to be healthy. There's absolutely the opposite. And this is why we have this problem. This is what I'm trying to do. Get my message to as many millions as I can. And just hope that I know there's other people out there talking about this. And here's another thing. Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm not pretending to be one. You know what? You don't need to be a doctor. I understand nutrition. I understand movement and exercise and what it does to the human body. I understand what stress does to the human body, and alcohol and the lack of sleep. I've studied it. It just seems to be a big blanket thrown over how to be healthy. And this is part of what blows me away. I don't quite understand it. Even when I get clients come to me to lose weight, they go, I don't understand it, Graham. I eat healthy. And then when we delve into what they eat on their food journal, especially that first week, okay, do you realize on Tuesday you had 70 grams of sugar? On the Wednesday you had 80 grams. How did I do? You had, look at the bread you're eating, it's got 7 grams of sugar a slice. Because what it is, it's the accumulation at the end of the day of all the toxins people are putting in the body, day after day, week after week, month after month. You know where I'm going? Year after year, decade after decade. You can't do it. The human body's not designed for it. Until people understand that self-care is healthcare and they educate yourself. I say, if you don't educate yourself in today's world, you're setting you and your children up eventually for some type of metabolic dysfunction. It's easier than ever now to move, to slowly drift into metabolic dysfunction. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's true. So you would say the first step is to either purchase a journal, or podcast family, you can use your phone to journal what you're eating every day. How long should they do this? For about a week
Well,
or so?
here's the thing, I would start here, but again, unfortunately, it's a little bit more. When I say it's easy, but you've got to understand the steps, I think, to take. Here's where you need to start before you even get a journal. Is you need to become aware of some of the ingredients used, the refined sugars, refined flours, the processed starches, the high fructose corn syrup, and let's not forget all the industrial seed oils I mentioned, corn, canola. Make sure you're not cooking in corn oil and canola and rapeseed, safflower and sunflower. Get them out your kitchen if you are, and stop eating slowly. Do your best. I know people are addicted to fried food. Slowly move away. These are the first things I'd do. I'd slowly move away from fried food. I would then move away from sports drinks, energy drinks, the sugary coffee drinks, because that's all basically sugar bombs. And you just, especially on an empty stomach, and we'll get, maybe next we can talk about blood sugar and insulin, because all what I'm talking about affects your blood sugars and insulin. And if I've learned anything, blood sugar and insulin is it's the trigger. It's the trigger for metabolic dysfunction. So avoid those, all the sugary drinks. Do your best. So be conscious of it, and then make that first meal of the day. We've all heard it's important, but it's what you have for the first meal of the day what's important. So if you're getting up and you're going straight for the simple carbs, pastries and donuts and bagels, pancakes, muffins, cereal, you're starting your day off with a massive blood sugar spike, and it'll ruin your day. Start your day off with a 3-egg scramble, half an avocado if it's a big one, or an avocado, some pickles. Try and slowly move away from bread. One, it's a simple carbohydrate, and they're just sprayed with glyphosate, more chemicals in your body. Unfortunately, we can't just eat what looks good, tastes good, and smells good because it's in a nice package. Honestly, you just can't do that. You can if you want, but not if you want to be healthy. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some certain breads out there. If you are going to eat breads, avoid the ones with sugar, which is usually ciabatta bread, sourdough bread, and find a bakery who's baking it, not going into your supermarket and they're all stacked on a shelf. That's highly processed as far as I'm concerned. And they're the type of things I have slowly moved away from. So just move away from all the things I've just mentioned. That's probably a good place to start right there. Because here's what happens. Anytime you eat, it does something to your blood sugars. Now, it's insulin's job to move that sugar out of the bloodstream into the liver and muscle cells as quickly and as efficiently as it can, where it's stored for fuel and energy. And that's absolutely normal. That's healthy. Now, when blood sugar and insulin spikes repeatedly, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, from the ingredients I mentioned, the refined and all the sugars, all found cleverly hidden in fast food, processed foods and snack, and all those drinks, well, constantly elevated insulin will lead to weight gain because it's insulin's job to get the blood sugar out the bloodstream into the liver and muscle cells. But once the liver and muscle cells are full, it's still got to get rid of it. So it just deposits it in fat cells. And that's why they call insulin the fat storage hormone. You really can't gain weight if you're not producing too much insulin. And so, which it makes it quite obvious now, if you want to lose weight, what's the best thing you can do? Cut your insulin down, because then your body will burn fat for energy. That's where fasting and those type of regulatory things come in. Because again, constantly elevated insulin will lead to weight gain, non-alcohol fatty liver, which will lead to type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure and more. So if you are struggling with weight, then I'd say it's a clear sign you're producing too much insulin. So that's really, I think, a good place to start. Understand what you're putting in your body. And if you do have things in your pantry, or even now, after you listen to this podcast, go read and look at the ingredients labels. In fact, there's a great app out there called Yucca. Have you heard of Yucca?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, YUKA. And what you do, you scan the barcode of food, and it'll give you a value of 30 out of 100 poor, 50 out of 100, or 95 excellent. And what it does is, what I like about it best, which is why I know there's so many hazardous chemicals in food, it lets you know what type of chemicals are in there. You'll be shocked to how many chemicals are in food. And then what it doesn't do the seed oils. That's what it doesn't. And I wrote to them about that, and they said, we're aware of that. At this moment, we're not going to do anything. But apart from that, it'll give you your sugar, your protein. And then at the bottom, it'll give you a healthier option of a very similar product. Because that's what I find amazing too. Let's say, for instance, out of all the protein bars in my local stores, and there's got to be, I don't know, 40, I can only find 2 which I would put in my body. The rest of them rather have chemicals or way too much sugar. 2 out of all them. So what I'm trying to say here, there are some conscious companies out there, I think. But you've got to know what you're looking for. You've got to read the ingredients label. And then with the help of this app, you can see. In fact, I'd say if there's more than 4 or 5 ingredients and you don't really know what they are, I'd be a bit suspicious. It's same with chocolate. I love chocolate. I love dark chocolate. I'm up to the 95, 98% just cocoa. So you get very minimal sugar in there, very minimal. And there's 20 different names for sugar. So it might say sugar-free, but then when you read the ingredients label, it's got maltodrose and all this drose. Anything what else in dose is usually sugar. So again, there's this massive deception. Again, slowly try and make all your meals and snacks. I'm going to say cancel snacks, because here's what happens. When you start to eat real food, this 3 meals a day and snacking, the snacking disappears. Because when you eat real food, you satiate yourself. So what is real food, right? Lean organic meats. There's loads of different meats out there. Lean organic meats and chicken and wild-caught fish, seafood, fruits and vegetables, beans and legumes and nuts and seeds and herbs and spices. You know how many wonderful meals you can make with all that? I am now addicted to real food. When I make a meal and I sit down, I'm like, oh God, can't wait to tuck into this. And I know it's nourishing me, because every meal, my first thought is, where's my protein? I'll give you an example. I say, where's my protein coming from? Like my first meal today. I didn't get back until I do the 16, I do the 16-8 fasting, and sometimes it's 18-6. So my first meal today was around noon. I threw a steak on the barbecue. I always have in my fridge, and this is what your listeners need to do. If you want to save time, I don't think I would eat as healthy as I do if I didn't actually do this. In my fridge, I always have the ingredients of a Greek salad and a bowl of washed kale. I also have a mixed roasted vegetable dish, which is usually a fresh garlic, onions, red pepper, green pepper, mushrooms, and some broccoli sprouts. And I always have mixed berries, raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries. So today when I came home, I'm like, okay, I got to get moving here. What can I have? I want something quick. I put a steak on the barbecue. I've made myself a nice Greek salad, a couple of pickles. I got a kiwi, sliced that into four, put some herbs and spices on. I put some olive oil and some vinegar on the dressing. What a great meal that is. I got plenty of protein, I got plenty of fiber, I got plenty of healthy fat. They're the three essential macronutrients the body needs to thrive and survive. The fast food and processed food, they're not giving you that. Now, again, I'm not saying you can't swing by once in a while, but just remember what you're putting in your body. 80% of the time, I'd say. For me, it's 95% of the time. And it doesn't mean to say you can't have I had an ice cream the other day. You don't mean to say you can't have that, but again, I had that ice cream after I'd had a good meal of protein, fiber, and healthy fat. So when I went for a walk, I went to the ice cream. I got a kid's size, and I'm walking. So because I had all that food in me, the digestion of that blood sugar is slow. And we kept walking. We went for a nice long walk. So again, you're using energy. It's pulling the glucose right out your blood. These are part of what's called blood sugar hacks. Moving after a meal, that's another one if you're starting off. Move after a meal, it'll help burn some of that blood sugar off already in your bloodstream. Even a 10, 15-minute walk can 35%. It's huge.
That's great information. Thank you for sharing that. So, what would you say step 2 consists of?
Yeah, I'd say once you become conscious of what we just said, just get that first meal going, walk after that first meal, slowly move away. Now, look, it might take you a couple of weeks to get what I've just said. Don't try and cram it all in at once. This is the slow steps. This is why I say get a journal and write that down. Go nutrition. First meal of the day. Once you've done that for a week, it'll start to become a routine. You can tick that off. And then you can add walking after a meal on the next page for exercise. Boom. So create yourself a log. Get engaged. It's your health. You want to be healthy. Get engaged, right? Make it make it a game if you want. Because once you start to see and feel the results, you'll be glad you went down that road. You will be glad you went down that road. The next, I would say, just be conscious of moving your body more. I'm not saying go to a gym. I'm not doing any of that. Just move your body more. When you go to the supermarket, don't park to the closest spot to the front door. Go to the furthest one in the parking lot. That will just add in more steps. If you work in a building, you work on the 3rd floor, don't take the elevator. Why can't you take the stairs? You come down at lunchtime, take them down, take them back up. You'll be amazed. Every time you go to the bathroom, hold on to the sink and do 10 squats. There's loads of little ways you can just get your joints moving, your muscles moving, and what I call your step count improved. If you've got a dog, don't just take it out. I walk a lot around my neighborhood. I see neighbors walk out their house with the dog. They maybe get a quarter of a block. The dog will do its business, and then they walk back. Or you have a dog, don't do that. Take the dog for a walk. Your dog will appreciate it, and you'll appreciate it. So just try and move your body more. And we'll get into hopefully we get into the morning routine of sleep, because that's about moving your body. The idea is to start your morning like a warm-up and not straight out the starting blocks like most people do.
So you said start your morning off
Yeah,
like
I think, I'm glad we're getting onto this sleep quality, because I think it's probably one of the most overlooked pillars. Not what I think. This is what all the doctors I follow and the experts are saying. People just overlook it. It's very important. It's where your body gets its rest and rejuvenates itself, and it's like the cleaners get in there to get rid of the metabolic and pathogenic waste. And it can only do that when your body's all nice and quiet and your organs are all relaxed and everything's. That's when it all happens. So let's talk about the evening routine, because the evening routine and the morning routine are both important. And when you do these routines, and this is all science and studied based, you set what's called a circadian rhythm. So your body gets into that rhythm. It knows when you're winding down. It knows when you're waking up. So the routine on an evening is no food, no alcohol, 3 hours before bed. Now, if you're not ordinarily doing that, start with 30 minutes before bed this week. The following week, move it up 15 or 20 minutes. And as each week goes by, that's when you've slowly eliminated that unhealthy habit to 3 hours before bedtime. Don't try and do it the next night or tonight, because you're going to fail. Slowly. And then an hour before bed, this is the same. If you're not used to doing this an hour before bed, start with 15 minutes, then move to 30 minutes the following week. But an hour before bed, TV off, laptops down, PlayStation away, phone off. Dim the lights. Let your body know that you're winding day. Your body's been hectic all day. All your organs are moving around. Your hormones are going. Your nervous system. You've got cortisol running through your body. It's quite taxing on the body. So you help the body wind down. You can read a book. Listen to your favorite podcast. Listen to a comedian or something. Just wind down. And then when you got that evening routine and you've got it established, by the time you go to bed, keep your bedroom cool and dark. I got blackout windows in mine. It's pitch black. You fall asleep within minutes. It's amazing. It's amazing. You get more REM sleep, more deep sleep. Now, the morning routine is, when you wake up on a morning, your body naturally releases the stress hormone, cortisol. That's just normal. That's natural. And then your nervous system is a bit jangly because you've been chilled all night. All of a sudden, it's up and you're moving around. Your body's going, hey, what's going on? So it's our job to send it signals that it's okay. This goes back to prehistoric days, where is there a tiger outside the cave? So say the best thing you can do is just go straight for hydration. You've had no hydration for what? I don't know. You've been in bed for 7 or 8 hours. You didn't hydrate an hour or two before you went to bed. So you're slightly dehydrated. Go for that. Put some Mediterranean sea salt or some Celtic sea salt in there for some electrolyte. Squeeze a lime or squeeze a lemon. Hydrate for the first half hour. Avoid the coffee. Everybody gets up, goes for coffee, scrolling on the phone. They've got all this bombardment and all this negativity. You've got to help bring the cortisol levels down, not raise them. So by hydrating, and then just do something simple like hold on to the countertop, do 10 squats, do some push-ups off the counter thing, do some off the wall. If you're into it, after a week or two, drop on the floor and do some push-ups. The idea is to just get the blood moving a little bit, nothing extreme. Just get that blood moving, feeding all the organs. You're waking your body up, and all your organs are going, we got some hydration. I'm getting a bit of blood now, and everyone's happy. If you want to top that off, step outside, and don't even need to be sunny. Just get some natural light in your eyes. Because they say, doing the morning and that nighttime routine just locks everything in. Try and avoid caffeine or food for the first hour you're up. And then, back to backtracking, that first meal, it's important. Make sure it's healthy fat and fiber and some protein, real food, whatever you want to choose. Don't look at your first meal. If you do have a breakfast, which is called breaking the fast, don't be afraid to have something you might have even had for dinner last night. You've got to get this, what we feel as though we've been indoctrinated. It's got to be a bowl of cereal or some jam on toast or something sweet to get your day going. It's not going to get your day going. That's going to set you off down the wrong road. It's interesting once you start to delve into the 5 pillars. Like I've just explained that sleep routine, right? And logically, it makes sense, right? You think so? Makes sense. So when you delve into now the stress one and the alcohol one and the exercise one and the nourishment one, it all becomes common sense to some degree. It's like we've lost common sense, or we haven't been taught common sense. Again, we've been slowly indoctrinated into, and I'm going to say even lighter, if you look at the food pyramid for 25, 30 years, it was upside down. They were actually telling you to eat carbohydrates for breakfast, simple carbohydrates for breakfast, and that's healthy. It's a sham. It's an absolute sham. So again, it's self-care is the new healthcare. Educate yourself, get educated. Because here's the thing, just imagine, let's all imagine yourself in the 70s and 80s, struggling to get out of a chair, finding it harder to get up and down stairs. Now imagine this. You're in the park playing with your grandkids. You're traveling around Europe, you're going around the world. You're playing tennis, golf. Look, you get in your 70s and 80s, they're supposed to be the golden years. You've worked hard all your life. Are you going to fail because you couldn't be bothered taking care of yourself? That's when we should be enjoying ourselves. We should be enjoying the fruits of life and what we've built. You've built a life, you've built a family, you've built a business, equity and wealth. But now what? You're going to be stuck in a chair? Like my dad was? My father was housebound for 5 years. He didn't live his golden years. He died riddled with gangrene. It's not the way to go when it could have been avoided. So I do urge anybody listening, your health and your children's health are the most important thing. Without that, you don't really have a life. Or you're certainly not enjoying one.
What is, and I agree with that, and thank you for that information. Are we on, did you explain all of the pillars, or did we?
We could quickly go through movement and exercise. Look, it goes without saying, really, but let's just run through some benefits of just moving your body and exercising. It regulates your blood sugar, it improves your insulin sensitivity. It helps lower your blood pressure. It reduces your triglycerides. It raises your HDL, the good cholesterol. It supports fat loss. It strengthens your heart, your lungs. And I could just go on and on. Look, movement also improves your mood and your focus. It strengthens your immune system. It's like, why wouldn't you want to get engaged in just moving your body? Again, you don't need to go to the extremes. Ideally, I'm going to say, certainly as you get older, strength training, kind of non-negotiable, because remember, it's where the glucose is stored. And it's very common for people to get into the late 60s, 70s and 80s, and because they haven't ever developed muscle, not on about like Arnold Schwarzenegger, just maintain some muscle in your legs and your upper body by doing squats or push-ups, dumbbells, just basic little stuff where you don't even need to go to a gym, because that's where the glucose is stored. And it's very common for people who just ignore it and they get muscle loss, then there's nowhere for the glucose to be stored. So it goes back into the bloodstream, it's clogging the liver up, and it will lead to pre-diabetes, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular heart disease. So muscle's important too, but move your body more. Eventually just get into doing a little bit of strength training. If you want to go to the gym and let it rip, then do that. What was the other one? We did the bedtime routine. Oh, stress. Look, Stress is a tough one because it's hard to eliminate stress, but again, if you get your journal out, you'll be surprised. And science has proven this. Write what is stressing you down. And then say, can I eliminate it? More times than not, the answer is probably no. If it's family, work, finances. But what you can do is you can come up a way to reduce that stress, whether it be setting better boundaries with people or even walking away from certain situations and even walking away from people. It's your health. Now, I know it's hard to walk away from a family member, but I don't know, if you got friends who are stressing you out, I'd say they're not really friends. My friends don't stress me out. You don't need 10, 15 friends. I've got one, what I call my best friend, and I know a lot of people. And a lot of people I know, if they stress me out, I don't have to hang with them. So it's really, because stress is very disruptive. It brings that stress hormone up, it'll cause weight gain, it'll disrupt your sleep. And again, I could go on and on. So you have these 5 pillars. Like I said, they don't work independently. You've slowly, look, even if it takes you 6 months to work on these pillars, even if it takes you a year, just start working on them. Don't wait until January or don't wait until after your birthday. Start tonight with some of those sleep ones I've just thrown at you. Start with one of them, then work to the other ones, and then somehow find a little bit more of these 5 pillars of health, and you'll find about the 5 pillars of health in my book. It's primarily a weight loss book, but as I saw clients coming to me for weight loss, they were also heading to the doctors at some point to have the medications reduced and eliminated. They were getting more, they were getting quality sleep, they'd reduced the stress and their alcohol, they were moving the bodies more, and they were eating real food. I've seen it firsthand, what it does. Makes you alive and thriving. You have energy, clarity. Fantastic. It's what life's about. Living it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So, podcast family, understanding that you may be going through the journey of being a caregiver, the question is then how does the information that Graham translates to you? I'm going to share with you what I received from it. And then also, Graham, I would like for you to elaborate on this. As a caregiver, we know that we wear many hats. We know that you can be the manager at your job. You also may be a mother. You may have children. You may be married. You may have a husband. And then you're also the caregiver. So then the question comes in, how do I achieve this? The first step is to make time for yourself. When you make that time for yourself, start thinking about the foods that you eat and just start writing it down. Every night, if you can take about 15 minutes at minimum for yourself, you'll be able to achieve what Graham has stated in terms of the 5 pillars of health. Graham?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And yeah, it's not just me, but science has proved that this journaling, you get quicker and better results. Now, ideally, here's a good thing. Ideally, find an accountability partner, somebody who you can maybe go on this journey with, whether it be a co-worker, a friend, a family member. Then you can spur each other on. You can say, hey, how you doing with this? Have you cut down your soda? How you doing with this? And I think, and again, science and studies have proven that having an accountability partner gets quicker and better results because you can throw ideas around to each other. Hey, let's try this. Let's both try this week and see how we do. It's not a competition. It's just about spurring each other on. I think that really would be. And then again, be honest with yourself with these 5 pillars. Where are you with these 5 pillars? Just look, in the beginning, just spend I don't know, spend a week just writing things down and getting a plan down. You have to get a plan down. If you don't have a plan, then you're just going to keep going through this revolving door. And it's like doing anything. You want to make changes in your life, you have to have a plan. And you have to write the plan down, and then you have to write the plan down in order in which you need to execute it, and start chipping away one day at a time. Small steps, big results in the end.
Absolutely. And that is great information. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Where can the podcast family find your book?
It's available on Amazon. And actually, probably the best way is if you go to my website, which is simplyhealthconscious.com. Simplyhealthconscious.com. There's a link to my book in there. There's also a free download of vitamins, minerals, and meal ideas with recipes. Links to my social media, my email and telephone numbers on there if anybody wants to reach out one-on-one to me. And yeah, there's a lot of information. Actually, the 5 pillars of health are all on my website, and just some little tips and tricks. I think you'll get everything you need from my website.
That's awesome. Okay, podcast family, again, it is www.simplyhealthconscious.com. And on Graham's website, as he just stated, you'll find all of the information needed there, including his book, as well as coaching, because you provide coaching as well. Is
I
that
do
correct?
one-on-one, busy professionals, and even families now, and it's all done by Zoom. So it doesn't matter where. I've got clients in England, I've got clients all over the place. So it really doesn't matter where you live. I do one-on-one. I also do keynote speeches. I got a 30-minute keynote speech I do virtually, and also live presentations.
That is awesome. Okay, so podcast family, Graham is offering his resources and is available to talk further and also provide coaching for you and your family. And all of this information, again, will be found on his website, simplyhealthconscious.com. This information will also be in the description of this episode. So, with that said, this has been a great conversation, Graham. I sincerely, again, appreciate you coming on to Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast and sharing just the wealth of knowledge as it pertains to getting in shape and our health and wellness and the 5 pillars of health that you discussed in detail. I sincerely thank you for that. And I know my podcast family also thanks you for that as well.
Again, I appreciate the invite. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Podcast family, until next time.